Imagine this. You're sitting in your living room. It's late evening. The house is, completely quiet.
Right.
You are totally relaxed. Maybe you're reading a book or just watching a show. You are perfectly comfortable in your sanctuary. And then right above your head, you hear it.
Oh, that is the worst.
A distinct, deliberate scratching coming from inside the ceiling. And in that instant, your heart rate just spikes. You realize a very unsettling truth. You aren't alone.
Yeah, it is a universal, almost instinctual shudder. I mean, that sound completely shatters the illusion that our homes are these impenetrable fortresses.
Completely.
In a split second, you are reminded that you are not isolated from the natural world at all. You're right in the middle of it.
Exactly. And that collision where human real estate meets raw, wild biology, that is exactly what we are exploring in today's deep dive.
It's a fascinating overlap.
It really is. We are looking at what happens when highly adaptable animals decide your house is, well, their new habitat. And to understand how these home invasions actually work, and more importantly, how they are defeated, we're digging into the operational playbooks of a specialized wildlife control company.
Right, based out of Conroe, Texas.
Yep, they're called the Critter Team.
And looking at Conroe specifically, I mean, it provides the perfect case study for this. If you look at the geography of Montgomery County, it sits right on the bleeding edge of the densest wildlife habitat in southeast Texas.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got the West Fork of the San Jacinto River, the massive, 21,000-acre Lake Conroe, and all these residential developments pressing directly up against the Sam Houston and W.G. Jones state forests.
Okay, let's unpack this setup.
Yep.
You have massive bodies of water, dense timber, and a boom in rapid residential construction pushing deeper into those woods. We are literally building neighborhoods inside their living room.
We really are.
And the animals aren't packing their bags and retreating. They are adapting. Because to a raccoon or a bat, your newly built, heavily insulated house isn't a human dwelling. It's just a highly upgraded hollow tree with central air conditioning.
That is precisely the biological reality. I mean, they look at it and see premium, climate-controlled, predator-free real estate.
Who wouldn't want to live there?
Right. And dealing with a highly motivated biological competitor that adapts to your defenses, well, it requires a disciplined strategy. You can't just react randomly.
Which brings us to the playbook we're studying today. So the Critter Team was founded in 2015 by Mike Garrett, who brings a 20-year U.S. Army background to the table.
Yeah, that's a significant detail.
And you can really see that military DNA in every part of their operation. They operate 24/7 around the clock. Everything is done in-house by trained technicians with zero subcontracting.
Right. They maintain a strict chain of custody over the worksite.
Exactly. But here's the operational rule that I really want to push back on for a second. Their absolute baseline is 100% humane, poison-free removal.
That is their strict protocol, no exception.
But wait, when I hear 20-year Army veteran, my mind instantly goes to, search and destroy.
Sure, yeah.
Humane removal sounds, well, kind of soft, like catching butterflies, How do a military tactical mindset and humane animal removal actually coexist?
That is such a common misconception. What's fascinating here is that they don't clash at all once you understand the mechanics of the problem.
Okay, how so?
Well, military operations at their core are about precision. It's about controlling the environment and implementing root cause solutions. Poison is the exact opposite of that. Poison is sloppy.
Sloppy how? Just messy.
It introduces uncontrollable variables and massive collateral damage. I mean, if you throw rodenticide into an attic, you don't know when the animal will die, where it will die, or what non-target animal might consume it later.
Oh, wow. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, you are completely surrendering control of the situation. Tactically, humane trapping and permanent exclusion require extreme precision. You aren't just fighting the symptom by killing an animal. You are identifying the structural breach, neutralizing the immediate threat by removing the animal alive, and reinforcing the perimeter so the breach never happens again.
So it's not about being soft. It's about being surgical. Poison is basically a shotgun blast, but exclusion is a sniper rifle.
Precisely. That is exactly it.
Since this strategy relies on identifying structural vulnerabilities, let's look at the escalation of these biological threats. Instead of just listing animals, let's look at how these breaches escalate in severity.
Good idea.
Starting with the passive adapters, the airborne intruders like bats and squirrels that find existing weaknesses high up on the house.
Yeah, the attic is absolute ground zero for airborne wildlife. In the Conroe area, you have Mexican free-tailed bats and evening bats that roost in massive colonies.
We're talking hundreds of them, right?
Oh, easily hundreds. They target aging fascia boards, the long straight boards along the lower edge of the roof. But even brand new construction has vulnerabilities. The tiny gaps where the roof trim meets the brickwork are notorious entry points. And a bat colony is far more than a noise nuisance. It is a severe biological hazard.
Right, because the CDC knows that bats can carry rabies. But the silent, more insidious threat is the guano. Bat droppings harbor Histoplasma capsulatum.
Exactly. And to understand why that matters, you have to look at the mechanism. When bat guano dries out in a hot Texas attic, it turns into a fine powder.
Ugh, that sounds awful.
It is. That powder is full of fungal spores. If you go up there and sweep it, or if your HVAC system pulls air from the attic, those spores become airborne.
And then you breathe them in.
Right. If you inhale them, they cause a severe, sometimes chronic respiratory illness called histoplasmosis.
Which totally explains why the Critter team operates under the NWCOA Bat Standard Certification.
Yes.
NWCOA being the National Wildlife Control Operators Association. The removal process isn't just someone weaving a net around. They use specialized one-way devices.
Yeah, and the mechanics of a one-way device are brilliant in their simplicity. It operates basically like a physical valve.
How does that work?
They install this funnel-like structure over the exact entry point. The bats drop down and fly out at night to feed, as they normally do. But because of the slick material and the narrow angle of the funnel, they physically cannot grip the outside to climb back in.
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah, they are literally locked out by gravity.
But the real precision is in the decontamination. Because of those fungal spores we talked about, when they clean up the guano, they don't just drag it through your house in garbage bags.
No, definitely not.
They run specialized attic vacuum hoses through the roof and directly outside. It's essentially a closed-loop quarantine system. They're treating your attic like a biohazard lab.
It's really the only way to ensure the contaminants never enter the human living space. But bats aren't the only ones exploiting the high ground. You also have fox squirrels, eastern gray squirrels, and roof rats.
Wait, I always thought squirrels needed a tree branch touching the roof to get up there.
Not at all. I mean, they will scale sheer brick walls. They will climb up the inside of your downspouts like tiny mountaineers.
Wow.
Their absolute favorite structural vulnerability is something called a soffit to shingle transition.
Okay, what exactly is that?
Think of it as the architectural armpit of the house.
The armpit.
Yeah, it's the geometric pinch point where the horizontal undereave, the soffit, meets the sloped shingle roof of a lower section of the house.
Okay, I can picture that.
It's a natural resting place for water, meaning the wood there often softens over time. It makes it incredibly easy for a squirrel to sit there and literally chew their way right into the attic.
And once they are in, the damage just accelerates. The Kansas State Extension warns that squirrels will gnaw on PVC plumbing lines looking for condensation to drink.
Which causes massive flooding.
Right, and they chew through electrical wiring to file down their constantly growing teeth. It is a huge fire hazard.
And roof rats are just as bad, honestly, but far stealthier. A roof rat can squeeze through a gap the size of a dime.
A dime that defies physics.
Their skeletons are incredibly collapsible. They will run right along your AC lines and squeeze into the wall cavities, and they bring hantavirus and salmonella with them.
Terrifying.
And because they are so agile, the Critter team relies on a very specific set of tools. They use professional-grade snap traps along travel paths, and they actually fabricate 23-gauge aluminum and copper mesh on site to permanently seal those dime-sized gaps.
Which brings up a fascinating point about why these animals are fighting so hard to get inside. When you look at it from the animal's perspective, we aren't just giving them shelter. We're essentially building them luxury condos.
We really are.
Think about it. We pre-install fluffy fiberglass insulation for their bedding. We give them heated AC ductwork to sleep on during the winter. We build these perfectly sheltered ecosystems that completely protect them from owls and hawks. Why would a squirrel ever want to live in a wet, drafty oak tree again?
They absolutely wouldn't, which is why the defense has to escalate. Because if bats and squirrels are the passive adapters finding existing gaps, the next tier of threat is the brute force invaders.
The ones that don't need an open door.
Exactly. The animals that don't look for an open door, they make one.
We are talking about raccoons. Raccoons use the creek corridors in Conroe as hidden highways straight from the deep timber into residential neighborhoods. And a pregnant female raccoon looking for a secure den, she will use sheer physical strength to tear a house apart.
They are incredibly strong. I mean, they will grip water-damaged roof plywood and rip it up with their bare hands. They will completely destroy a 30 by 30 mushroom vent.
Those are the passive, kind of umbrella-looking metal exhaust vents on top of the roof, right?
Exactly. They're designed to let hot air out of the attic, but to a raccoon, it just looks like a flimsy metal lid over a perfect dark hole.
Oh, man.
They will pry the metal cap right off, and once a raccoon establishes a latrine in your attic, the biological hazard is off the charts. Raccoon feces carry Balasoscaris roundworm eggs.
And the mechanism behind this one is absolutely terrifying. The CDC notes that these eggs can survive for years. So if a raccoon leaves droppings in your fluffy fiberglass insulation, those microscopic eggs just sit there, dormant. Long after the raccoon is gone, a contractor or even a homeowner looking for holiday decorations disturbs that insulation, and suddenly they are exposed to a serious parasitic disease.
Which is exactly why full decontamination is mandatory. But capturing a raccoon requires serious finesse. The critter team uses humane live traps, but their strict protocol is to check those traps daily.
And that isn't just about being kind to the animal, is it?
No, not at all. It is a tactical necessity to keep nursing mothers and their young together.
Explain the tactical side of that.
Well, if you trap and remove a mother raccoon but leave her babies hidden deep in a wall cavity, those babies will die. And a decaying animal in your wall creates an entirely new, horrific problem.
Right.
Or worse, the mother escapes but knows her babies are trapped inside. She will literally tear through your shingles, your siding, and your drywall to get back to them. You have to remove the entire family unit simultaneously.
That makes total sense. Now, complicating this mid-level invasion are birds. You have starlings packing dryer vents with nesting material, which is a massive fire risk, and pigeons roosting in commercial warehouse rafters.
Yeah, birds are tricky.
And Mike Garrett handles this using his NWCOA training and his status as a bird barrier certified installer.
And that certification is critical because, unlike a rat, you cannot just remove a bird however you see fit.
Oh, because of the regulations.
Exactly. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service heavily regulates native bird handling through the Federal Migratory Bird Treaty Act. You have to understand the legal and biological framework to install exclusion netting or one-way vent covers without violating federal law.
It requires specialized legal knowledge, not just a ladder.
Spot on.
So we've covered the roof, the vents, the walls. Let's move down to the dirt.
The ground war. Armadillos and skunks.
Specifically, the 9-banded armadillo. Texas A&M's management guide highlights that Montgomery County is full of sandy loam soil. It is loose, well-draining dirt.
Perfect for digging. Exactly. Armadillos have claws built like miniature backhoes. They are hunting for grubs, and they will tunnel relentlessly. They will undermine a concrete foundation, a driveway, or an AC unit pad, and know the concrete literally cracks and collapses under its own weight.
And then there are the skunks, which den under porches. They are a primary carrier of rabies in Texas. But removing a skunk seems like, I don't know, a literal ticking time bomb.
Which is why the critter team utilizes specialized covered traps for skunks.
Covered, because it blocks their vision.
Yes. A skunk spray is a defensive mechanism triggered by visual threats. If they are in a fully enclosed, solid-walled trap, they can't see the technician approaching.
Oh, that's smart.
It removes the visual trigger so the skunk remains calm during capture and transport. It is a small tactical detail, but it is the difference between a clean removal and a homeowner dealing with a house that smells like raw sulfur for 6 months.
Okay, but my absolute favorite detail in this entire playbook has to be the opossums. Because opossums are opportunistic. They don't usually dig their own tunnels or tear their own holes in the roof.
Nope. They are the ultimate subletters.
They just wait for a raccoon to rip open a soffit, and then they move in.
They let the raccoons do all the heavy lifting.
Right. And the telltale sign, according to the materials, is finding chihuahua-sized droppings on your roof. So if I walk outside and find massive chihuahua-sized droppings on my shingles, and I don't own a flying dog, I'm guessing my perimeter is breached.
It is deeply breached. But the opossum taking over the raccoon's den illustrates something vital about wildlife control. Ecosystem succession.
Succession, like one species following another.
Exactly. An opening made by one species this season becomes a ready-made, scent-marked home for a completely different species next season. It's a revolving door.
Which is why Mike Garrett's team acts as an authorized distributor for commercial-grade Ridge Guard in the North Houston area.
Exactly. Ridge Guard is a specialized steel mesh system that permanently seals the ridge vents at the very peak of the roof. You have to stop the cycle of succession permanently with physical barriers. Otherwise, you'll just be trapping different animals out of the exact same hole forever.
And that interconnectedness brings us to a really chilling reality, the final escalation. Because where prey gathers, where you have a healthy population of rats, squirrels, or birds, predators inevitably follow.
And that brings the apex hazard right into the living room.
The snakes.
Yeah. Conroe sees massive spikes in snake removal calls during the spring and fall. The Texas Parks and Wildlife Department notes 4 venomous species prevalent in the area. You've got copperheads, cottonmouths, timber rattlesnakes, and coral snakes.
Yikes.
Plus massive non-venomous rat snakes. And there is a golden rule with snakes. They only care about 3 things: eating, mating, or hibernating.
So if it isn't mating season, and it isn't the dead of winter, and a snake is inside your house, it is there for a reason. It is hunting.
It is following a food source. If you have a rat snake in your walls, you almost certainly have a rodent problem. The snake is a terrifying symptom of a deeper perimeter breach. And because it's such an acute danger to humans and pets, the Critter team offers a same-day urgent response specifically for snakes found indoors.
Which brings us to what I am calling the ultimate mistake. We've talked about identifying breaches and sealing them up. But let's say a homeowner spots a rat in the garage, or hears scratching in the ceiling. The immediate panicky instinct is to run to the hardware store, grab 5 tubes of caulk and a roll of chicken wire, and aggressively seal every crack and crevice on the house.
That is the absolute worst thing you can do.
Wait, if my instinct is to pull up the drawbridge and board up the castle, you are saying my DIY defense is actually creating a massive biological hazard.
Without a doubt, if you seal a hole without professionally verifying that the cavity behind it is completely empty, or if you toss poison up there and wait for the scratching to stop, you are trapping a live animal inside your walls, your ductwork, or your chimney.
Oh no.
Yeah, it will eventually die of dehydration or poisoning.
And a dead animal in a wall cavity, baking in a 130-degree Texas attic.
The decomposition biology is brutal. The heat accelerates the decay incredibly fast. It creates a rotting, sickly, sweet odor that permeates the drywall.
That is disgusting.
It is beyond description, and it doesn't just go away in a few days. It lasts for weeks. It attracts blowflies, which lay eggs, leading to maggots literally dropping out of your light fixtures.
That is a literal nightmare.
It happens all the time, and fixing it requires the Critter team's dead animal removal service. It is highly invasive. They have to use their knowledge of architecture and airflow to methodically locate the carcass behind the drywall.
So they can't just guess.
No, they physically cut into your walls, extract the decaying animal, sanitize the entire area at the source with commercial enzymes, and then follow strict disposal laws set by the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality.
You have to destroy your own house to fix the mistake.
Exactly. It is invasive, it is expensive, and it is entirely preventable. This proves exactly why the military exclusion after removal approach is the only logical method. You do the recon, you remove the biological threat first, you confirm the perimeter is 100% clear, and then you fortify the breach.
It really highlights how tactical precision saves you from absolute catastrophe later. Dealing with wildlife isn't just about getting rid of a temporary nuisance. It is fundamentally about protecting the structural integrity and the respiratory health of your home from a highly adaptive ecosystem that is constantly probing your defenses.
Precisely. You need a comprehensive strategy executed by professionals who understand both the tactical reality of physical exclusion and the biological reality of these animals.
So if you are living in Conroe, Montgomery County, or the broader North Houston area, you're going to want to keep these logistics saved in your phone. Because when the natural world decides to move into your attic, you don't need a handyman with a caulk gun. You need the experts.
Absolutely.
The Critter team is located at 118-627 Shadow Valley Drive, Spring, Texas, 77379. And because they operate around the clock, their 247 line for a free phone consultation is 281-800-4992. Again, that is 281-800-4992. Have that ready before you hear the scratching.
It's all about being prepared.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up this deep dive into the collision of modern architecture and wild biology, it leaves me with a thought that is hard to shake. We talked about how our heated AC lines and fluffy insulation create luxury condos for these animals.
Right.
But think about where housing technology is going next. We are building climate-controlled crawl spaces, smart heated driveways, and perfectly sealed, self-regulating ecosystems. What happens when our homes become even smarter? Are we inadvertently engineering the absolute perfect predator-free biomes for the next generation, of urban wildlife?
That is a fascinating question. I mean, the better we build our sanctuaries, the more attractive they become to everything outside.
Exactly. We aren't just building houses, we are building the ultimate habitat. So tonight, when you're sitting in your living room, totally relaxed, enjoying your sanctuary, just listen closely. Because you hear that faint scratching above your head, you now know exactly what you're up against and exactly the kind of tactical response you need to call in.